Next week, I will not be giving a sermon at the temple, right? It will be a busy time at this temple, as there will be a ceremony to remove the boundary markers. The work will start in the morning. Then, if it is completed on time, all the markers are removed, covering the entire area. Then no need to continue in the afternoon. After the monks finish their midday meal, they will be free to go as they wish. However, if the morning work is not finished in time, then we will have to continue in the afternoon. This is a busy time for the temple, with a lot of preparations needed. After the ceremony, the ordination hall will still be inaccessible for a while, as the area needs to be cleared. Work in the monastic community varies. Some monks enjoy construction, constantly building and repairing things. Occasionally, monks come to ask me for help with construction. Whether it's building a temple hall, repairing something, or continuing various projects. However, I always tell them the same thing, that I'm not skilled in doing construction. To take on construction work, we would need to raise funds, which would mean soliciting donations and trying to please some wealthy people. As a result, the people who come to the temple would be divided into two groups, the rich and the poor. I would not feel comfortable having to cater to the wealthy. From the very beginning, I never solicited donations. Even after more than 10 years of building the ordination hall, I never asked for contributions. Even during the kathana robe offering, I never allow solicitation envelopes to be distributed. There is no forest robe offering fundraising either. Since I never seek money that way, I remain independent and do not have to rely on the wealthy. If you come here on a regular weekday, you will witness both the rich and the poor sit on the same kind of mat, no different from one another. No matter where they come from, they are all the same. This is our principle. Everyone is equal as Buddhists. As for how much dharma each person can learn, that depends on their past merits and karmic potential. That cannot be forced. Some people learn slowly, some learn quickly, and some cannot learn at all. Yesterday, someone joined a Zoom session to submit their practice report. There was one person who, no matter what, simply could not learn. I could only teach as much as possible, instructing that person to keep chanting and meditating continuously, without expecting results. Claiming to have attained this or that level of jhana is not real. It is a delusion. That person had been ordained before, but had committed a serious monastic transgression, leading to permanent disqualification from monkhood. It is like a palm tree with a severed top. Once its crown is damaged, it can no longer grow. Some people simply cannot be helped. It is not that I'm not willing to help, it is just impossible to do so. The person would only fall further into delusion. Ordinary people who are able to learn should be diligent in their studies. I often mention that Buddhism is not strong but is on shaky ground. When we watch the news every day, we see nothing but scandals and negative issues. Society is changed. People today do not live like previous generations. In the past, those who worked in farming had plenty of free time. With nothing else to do, they would go to the temple. Every man would be ordained as a monk at some point. Nowadays, it is difficult to find people willing to ordain. There are still some who choose monkhood because they do not want to work for a living. But those who ordain with the aspiration for the path, fruition, and nirvana are rare. Let people are preoccupied with making a living. In the past, people had farms and fields, sustaining themselves without needing money. They could live without spending, bartering goods when necessary. They foraged for vegetables and fish, grew rice, wove their own clothes, and lived self-sufficiently. These days, we've become city dwellers, where everything has to be purchased. Nowadays, it's even reached the point where people buy air to breathe. Some people carry cans of oxygen just to breathe clean air, because the air quality is so poor. The same applies to water. Drinking water, for example, has to be purchased. Everything now revolves around money. If we live extravagantly, no matter how much we earn, it's never enough. This leads to debt. People become stressed, constantly working to make a living, consumed by the pressure to compete in consumption. How can one cultivate mindfulness or meditate in such a state? On top of that, the internet bombards us with all kinds of content, explicit images, pornographic movies, and so much more. Many of the scandals involving monks stem, in part, from such exposure. Once they see it, they cannot overcome their defilements. Therefore, it is difficult for religions to survive. Not just Buddhism, but other religions as well. In Europe and other places, churches and religious institutions are collapsing one after another. People in this era are gradually distancing themselves from religion. Buddhism, in particular, is more difficult to understand. Other religions are simpler. One only needs to believe that God exists and follow his teachings to please him. It's straightforward. But Buddhism is the most difficult to comprehend. It doesn't matter whether God exists or not. Instead, it focuses on the idea that humans can develop themselves. It places faith in human potential. Lord Buddha went to great lengths to discover the correct path of practice and teach us. However, the principles he taught go against the natural inclinations of most people. Therefore, the Dharma of Lord Buddha goes against the current. It is not a teaching that follows the flow of the world. What does it go against? It goes against the current of defilements. This is not easy at all. Dharma that follows the current, on the other hand, caters to what the audience likes, giving them whatever they want, creating an atmosphere of excitement and entertainment. But that has nothing to do with true Dharma. Sometimes, what is presented as Dharma is not actually Dharma at all. It is distorted and misleading. Buddhism strongly opposes the flow of defilements. The core teaching of Buddhism is the Four Noble Truths. Suffering, its cause, its cessation, and the path leading to its cessation. Just hearing these terms makes people unwilling to listen. Why study suffering? Why not study happiness? because in reality, there is nothing else in this world. If we practice meditation, we will see that, apart from suffering, nothing arises. Apart from suffering, nothing persists. Apart from suffering, nothing ceases. However, the nature of all beings is to seek happiness. So, when they hear that the world is full of suffering, they immediately reject it. They cannot accept the truth. Therefore, we are accustomed to struggling for happiness throughout our lives. I observed myself since childhood and saw that myself, too, sought happiness. As a child, I felt I could not rely on myself and had to depend on adults. If I wanted something, I had no money to buy it. So I had to wait for someone to give it to me. I thought that if I finished my studies, I could make a living on my own and be self-sufficient, believing that life would then be happy. So, I studied diligently, expecting that after graduation, I would find happiness. The world is deluded into thinking that student life is the happiest time, without responsibilities other than studying. However, it is not like that in reality. While studying, we still experience exhaustion. If a subject suits us, we enjoy learning it, but if it does not, we have to force ourselves to study, and there is no happiness in that. Being a student does not mean experiencing happiness all the time. In my case, it was just one subject, physical education. Hanging on single bars and parallel bars was something I was not good at, did not like, and was not skilled in. I almost fell many times, but when it came to judo or sword fighting, I was naturally proficient, as if I had got these skills from past lives. Even within the same subject, such as physical education, the feelings about it varied at different times. Sometimes it felt torturous. Other times, it was fun. The idea that student life is the best is not entirely true because, in reality, we are still not free. After finishing school and starting work, the childhood dream of earning a living and gaining freedom turned out not to be true freedom. Work comes with many responsibilities and obligations. As income increases, so do expenses. During childhood, there were no financial responsibilities, but once earning a living, the realization dawns why there's so many expenses. So, one becomes fully committed to work, thinking that one day life will become easier, observing friends who are doing the same. But then I met Luangpu Pramote. I did not have to work for long before finding meditation and a way out for life. From then on, making a living was just a means to sustain life, nothing more. However, I still worked diligently and was never lazy, because I was no longer driven by selfishness. When I looked at friends working, struggling, and competing to rise to power, some succeed, some do not. As time passes, looking back to today, those who once fought for status and authority are now left with emptiness. Some were once permanent secretaries, but now they are not. Some were once director generals, but now they are not. Some were once ambassadors, but now they are not. What are they now? Just old men reminiscing about the past, finding happiness in memories. I was once powerful, once famous. They think back to their youth, recalling how great things were, but they dare not think about the present, where everything has become empty. They indulge in nostalgia, clinging to past happiness. When they're still young, people dream of happiness in the future. People in this world are constantly seeking happiness, always dreaming of it. Children dream of future happiness, while the elderly reminisce about the past to find happiness. However, some people think of the past and feel suffering, especially if they have done bad deeds. Remembering those actions is like experiencing hell even before death. The memories of past misdeeds torment their own minds. Therefore, in this world, everyone is simply chasing happiness. Lord Buddha began his teaching with suffering, which strongly goes against people's natural feelings. They do not want to study it, nor do they want to hear about it. People prefer to hear blessings, wishes for eternal strength, long life, and wealth. They do not want to hear that one day they will grow old, fall ill, and die. That they will be separated from what they love and face what they dislike. That sometimes they will achieve their desires, and other times they will not. They do not want to be told that they will experience sorrow, lamentation, physical discomfort, mental distress, and deep frustration. Who would want to hear such things? People do not want to listen to them. I once read a Zen book where someone went to make merit at a temple and then asked for a blessing. The Zen master gave a blessing. May your father die. May your mother die. May you die. May your children die. May your grandchildren die. Hearing this, the person became furious. Why give such a curse after making merit? They had come for a blessing. So why say that their entire family would die? The master then explained, if we have both parents and children, it is easier to accept when our parents pass away before us, but if our child dies before us, we find it unbearable. The suffering is immense because we cannot accept it. With parents, we naturally feel that they are old and that one day they will pass away. This is normal. Seeing that the elderly eventually die is something the mind can accept. But when it comes to the thought of a child dying before us, it is unbearable. Just imagining it is difficult. We do not even dare to think about it. The master explained that his blessing was actually meant to wish for death to occur in the proper order, so that suffering would not be too great. People only want blessings for happiness, wealth, strength, longevity, and being loved by everyone. But these are just illusions, comforting deceptions that people are content with, because they do not dare to face the truth. Lord Buddha taught us to face reality, to understand suffering, and not to abandon it. He taught us to be aware of it. Yet, his teaching goes against our instincts, because we all want to escape suffering. We have the desire to be free from suffering, but Lord Buddha taught us to abandon desire, and instead to understand suffering. It is the complete opposite of what we naturally want. Some people practice meditation for a long time, and wonder why they see no results. It is because they are full of desire. Lord Buddha taught us to abandon craving, but instead, we crave attainment. We want to reach the path and fruition, to attain nirvana, to become an enlightened being, believing that life will then be filled with happiness. But does an enlightened one not grow old? Do they not experience illness? Do they not die? They do. There is no escape. But through meditation, we learn to accept the truth. That we will grow old, we will fall ill, and we will die. When we can accept this truth, then when aging comes, the mind remains unshaken. When illness arises, the mind remains unshaken. When death approaches, the mind remains unshaken. We also come to accept that we will be separated from those we love and from things that bring us joy. When we fully accept this truth, then when we face the loss of a loved one, whether through death or separation, we see it as natural. Meeting leads to parting. It is simply the way of life. We do not meditate to transcend the ordinary, but to allow the mind to see the truth repeatedly. The truth of the body and the truth of the mind. When we see reality again and again, the mind eventually accepts that this is simply the way things are. It is natural to grow old, and when we age, we can accept it without suffering. It is natural to fall ill, And when illness comes, we can accept it without suffering. It is natural to die. And when death approaches, we do not suffer, because we see it as part of nature. In terms of the mind, we experience both pleasant and unpleasant experiences. That is natural. We cannot expect to only encounter experiences that please us. Unpleasant experiences are also inevitable. Just as we have eyes, we see forms which are sometimes pleasing and sometimes displeasing, depending on the results of our past karma. If unwholesome karma manifests its consequences, we encounter unpleasant sights, sounds, smells, tastes, and touches. If wholesome karma manifests its consequences, we experience pleasant sights, sounds, smells, tastes, and touches. We cannot choose whether we will encounter good or bad experiences. Karma arranges everything on its own. We cannot command it. No one is above karma. Two people are riding in a car together. When they see someone who has been run over and killed, the body badly disfigured, the driver mentions that there was an accident up ahead and someone has died. One person is curious and wants to look, eagerly peering to see the accident scene, but only manages to see blood. The body is already gone. He wonders where they have taken it. The other person, afraid to look, turns away to the other side, only to find that the body has been moved right there on the roadside. This shows that we have no control. We have eyes, yet we cannot choose what we see. We have ears, yet we cannot choose what we hear. We have a nose, yet we cannot choose what we smell. We have a tongue, yet we cannot choose what we taste. We have a body, yet we cannot choose what we feel. Just like the weather, we cannot choose whether it will be hot or cold. We simply have no choice. If our mind can accept the truth that we will encounter both pleasant and unpleasant experiences, that the mind will come into contact with both agreeable and disagreeable experiences as a natural part of life, then gradually the mind will become more neutral. When encountering objects, the mind will simply know them as they are, just seeing, just hearing, just smelling, just tasting, just touching. The mind accepts them without resistance. When a sound reaches the ear, whether it is praise or insult, it is just sound all the same. It arises and then disappears. We practice meditation not to transcend the ordinary, but to accept it. The nature of the body has already been explained. As for the nature of the mind, it inevitably encounters both pleasant and unpleasant experiences, experiences both happiness and suffering. As long as defilements exist, there will be both wholesome and unwholesome states. We cannot choose or control them. For example, when anger arises, we may intend not to be angry, but in the end, anger still comes. When we intend not to fall in love, eventually, love still arises. The truth is that our mind is impermanent. Happiness is impermanent, suffering is impermanent. Whether the mind is good or bad, it is all impermanent. Another truth about the mind is that it cannot be controlled. It is not under our command. Whether the mind feels happiness or suffering, whether it is wholesome or unwholesome, whether it encounters pleasant or unpleasant experiences, none of these can be chosen, ordered, or prevented. When we accept this truth and observe it repeatedly, we see that encounters with mental objects cannot be controlled. Once the mind makes contact with an experience, whether happiness or suffering arises, we have no choice in the matter. Whether wholesome or unwholesome states arise, we cannot decide. With continuous mindfulness, we begin to see that all phenomena, all mental formations, share the same characteristics. They arise, exist, and then extinguish. They are impermanent, unable to remain in any fixed state, and are non-self, not under our control. If the mind can accept this truth, there will be no suffering. We study the dharma in order to accept reality. First, we must see the truth for ourselves. When we see the truth in our own mind, that happiness arises and then fades, that suffering arises and then fades, we realize that both happiness and suffering are impermanent. We learn to accept this reality. Over time, when happiness arises, we no longer get carried away by it, knowing that it will soon pass. When suffering arises, the mind remains unshaken, knowing that it too will soon pass. If we realize this truth through practice, through insight meditation, truly seeing reality as it is, defilements can be eradicated. The mind will no longer be shaken. It will become neutral toward all experiences, balanced, unmoved, and unshaken. Some people do not yet have the wisdom to reach this level. When suffering becomes overwhelming, I then give a simple mantra. This too shall pass. Recite it whenever suffering arises, so the mind does not become too restless. This is for those who have not yet developed an insight, or are not skilled in it. The same applies to happiness. Recite this too shall pass, as happiness is not permanent either. So, when happiness arises, remind yourself that it will not last. When suffering arises, remind yourself that it will not last. But if we develop insight meditation deeply, we will clearly see the truth that happiness and suffering arise and pass away. Wholesome and unwholesome states arise and pass away. Pleasant and unpleasant sights arise and pass away. Pleasant and unpleasant sounds arise and pass away. Scents, tastes, and touches, whether liked or disliked, arise and pass away. Everything, whether we like it or not, comes and goes. That is why we train ourselves to learn the truth. This is what it means to understand suffering. The body itself is suffering. The mind itself is suffering. They are not something special or extraordinary. When we feel strong and healthy, especially in youth, the sense of strength conceals suffering from us, but as time passes, we will inevitably see it for ourselves. No matter what, suffering will reveal itself. Therefore, as Buddhists, we must have mindfulness and not be superstitious. Do not hate suffering. Do not fear suffering. No matter how much we fear it, we cannot escape it. We must learn to live with it, just like having a chronic illness that cannot be cured. We cannot run from it. So we must find a way to live with it without suffering. To do this, we must train ourselves by continuously recognizing suffering. What we call suffering is nothing other than these physical and mental phenomena themselves. At first, we do not see the body as suffering. We do not see the mind as suffering. In the beginning, we notice that when the body experiences pleasant sensations, when we have eaten just the right amount and feel comfortable, not too full or too hungry, we feel happy. Or when we are not sick, when we feel strong and healthy, we believe the body is in a state of happiness. We do not yet see suffering, but if we develop mindfulness and continuously observe the body, we will begin to see suffering. This body is constantly oppressed by suffering with every in-breath and out-breath. Whether this is true or not, you can test it right now. Try taking a deep breath. Inhale as long as you can. Keep inhaling. Do you feel suffering? It only takes a moment, right? Just from inhaling for a short time, suffering arises. When we inhale too much, we feel discomfort. What do? We exhale to relieve the suffering of inhaling. Now, try exhaling as long as possible. Does it feel pleasant or unpleasant? When we inhale, suffering arises, so we exhale to relieve it. But after exhaling, suffering arises again, so we have to inhale to relieve it. Therefore, this body is constantly oppressed by suffering, with every breath in and out. If we practice mindfulness of breathing and develop wisdom through it, we will see that this body experiences suffering with every breath. It must inhale and exhale, exhale and inhale, just to escape suffering. If we are mindful, we will notice, when we inhale, there is suffering. When we exhale, there is a slight relief, but soon, suffering arises again. By maintaining awareness, we will clearly understand that this body is burdened with suffering in every breath. Or, If we practice the 4 foundations of mindfulness through mindfulness of postures, standing, walking, sitting, and lying down, such as sitting right now, try sitting still for a while. Soon, suffering will arise. It won't take more than 5 minutes. At first, you may not feel itchy, but as soon as I mention itching, you start to feel it. Do you notice? Your attention shifts, and suddenly, you feel itchy here and there. This is suffering. You have to scratch. Why do you scratch? To relieve suffering, to escape suffering. If you sit for a long time, you feel sore. Even if you sit on a chair worth 100,000, you will still feel discomfort. If you continue sitting or lying down for too long, even on a high-quality mattress, without changing posture for 2 hours, suffering will arise. Why do we keep turning from side to side while sleeping? Because of suffering. We have to change postures to escape suffering. If we are mindful and aware of the body, using mindfulness of breathing, we will see that suffering is present in every breath. If we practice mindfulness of postures, standing, walking, sitting, and lying down, we will see that suffering exists in every posture. If we cultivate clear comprehension, observing the body's movements and stillness, we will notice that our body is constantly moving, even in small ways. For example, while sitting, we may shift slightly, adjusting because of discomfort. Why does the body keep moving? Because it is trying to escape suffering. The discomfort builds up, so we move just a little at a time. If we sit for too long, suffering arises. Even if we want to stand up and walk, it might not be appropriate at the moment, so we keep making small movements instead. Therefore, if we cultivate mindfulness and direct our awareness to the body, we will see the truth of the body, that it is inherently suffering. If the mind realizes this clearly, then when we grow old, we will understand that it is suffering that ages, not us who age. When we experience pain, we will see that it is suffering that is in pain, not us who are in pain. When death comes, it is suffering that dies, not us who die. In fact, this realization brings joy because suffering itself comes to an end. All the enlightened ones, from Lord Buddha onward, have clearly realized that the 5 aggregates are suffering. The 5 aggregates, which are form, feeling, perception, mental formations, and consciousness, comprise our body and mind, and they are nothing but suffering. Therefore, when enlightened ones are about to pass away, they do not feel worried or troubled. Instead, they have the sense that the burden of carrying the 5 aggregates has come to an end. It is like someone who has completed their work and is about to receive a great reward. That is why the day an enlightened one attains nirvana is a day of great clarity and radiance. Their minds are especially bright and luminous. Lord Buddha himself said that there were 2 days when his radiance was at its peak, the day of his enlightenment and the final day of passing away. On the day of his enlightenment, Lord Buddha was able to completely let go of attachment to the 5 aggregates, no longer clinging to the body or the mind. He eradicated all defilements, which is called nirvana in terms of the cessation of defilements. His mind became radiant and joyful, as he attained the first type of nirvana, known as nibbana, with the aggregates remaining. Then, on the day of his final passing away, he attained nirvana without any aggregates remaining. At that point, the burden of maintaining the body and mind was completely gone. There was no more responsibility, no more suffering, and no reason for sorrow. Nevertheless, do enlightened ones wish to die quickly? No, they do not. They do not wish for death, because they do not hate the body. They do not cling to it, but neither do they reject it. If someone hates their body, that itself is a form of attachment. For example, when we are angry at someone, as long as we remain angry, it means we are still attached to them in some way. But if we let go, then what has passed is simply gone. We neither love nor hate, and the mind remains free and at ease. Therefore, keep practicing. Keep being aware of the body, but do not force it. Do not fixate on it with tension. Simply observe and learn the truth of the body until we truly understand its natural state. Understanding the natural state of the body is already a part of understanding dharma. It is the wisdom of material phenomena. Observing the mind is another approach. Some people start by observing the mind, while others begin with the body. It depends on one's natural inclination. For example, I developed wisdom by observing the mind directly, starting with mental phenomena. This was because, in my meditation, my mind would gather inwards so deeply that the sense of the body would completely dissolve. When I tried to focus on the body, it felt dull, empty, and uninteresting, nothing exciting or engaging to observe. Luangpu therefore advised that I observe the mind instead. However, this does not mean that everyone must observe the mind. Start by simply being aware of the body. The body never goes anywhere, but the mind is quick to wander. In just a moment, the mind can travel around the world, while the body remains right here. By frequently bringing awareness to the body, the mind gradually gains strength, mindfulness becomes sharper, concentration improves, and over time, the mind will naturally come to see itself. There's no need to rush or forcefully shift attention to the mind. When the time is right, the mind will reveal itself, and when we observe it, we will see the truth. The mind is full of impermanence, suffering, and non-self. It cannot be controlled. For most people, it's easy to see that the mind is impermanent. It constantly changes, sometimes happy, sometimes suffering, sometimes good, sometimes bad. One moment, the mind is looking at forms. The next, it's listening to sounds, smelling scents, tasting flavors, feeling bodily sensations, or thinking about something. It may even fixate or concentrate on something intensely. The mind is impermanent and non-self. It cannot be controlled or forced to be a certain way. However, when meditation reaches a refined stage, where concentration is fully developed, as in the case of the non-returner, or someone deeply immersed in meditative absorption, the mind becomes deeply stable and filled with happiness. At that point, the mind seems to contain only happiness, and one does not perceive it as suffering. And as long as it doesn't see this, it cannot fully let go. Luangpu once said that most practitioners become great ghosts, meaning they are reborn as celestial beings in the Brahma realms. Why do they only reach the Brahma realms? Because they are still attached to the mind. As they continue practicing, their mind becomes filled with bliss, the highest kind of happiness. They become delighted and satisfied with this state. Some practitioners focus on form and experience deep peace and contentment. These are the ones attached to form-based absorption. Others focus on mental phenomena, such as emptiness, spaciousness, or the absence of anything. Some directly observe the mind itself. These are the ones attached to formless absorption. Regardless of whether they cling to, they still experience happiness. Those who are attached to concentration and meditative absorption see that these meditative attainments bring them great happiness. When asked to let go, to not cling to them, the mind refuses. It enjoys them too much. However, if one continues practicing, and mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom become fully mature, at a certain point, the mind will shift just slightly and suddenly realize that the knowing mind is not something special or extraordinary after all. The very knowing mind that one has spent years training, that has brought so much happiness, that has been a tool for developing wisdom, ultimately reveals itself as suffering. It is suffering of the highest degree. There is no greater suffering in all the three realms of existence than this very knowing mind itself. But before one can see this truth, the mind must first be fully developed through training. In the end, when one truly sees reality, the mind will let go of the knower and completely release its attachment to the mind, which is part of the clinging aggregates. This will give rise to a different kind of mind, one that is beyond attachment, known as the supramundane mind. So, does an enlightened being still have a mind? Yes, but their mind is different. It is not entangled in objects. It is a mind free from attachment to objects. However, does this mean there are no objects at all? No. As long as there is a mind, there will always be some kind of object. But an enlightened one does not cling to them. Sometimes, an enlightened one may train in meditation or rest in a state of emptiness. But even this emptiness is still an object, still a kind of mental state. So, whenever there is a mind, there is always some kind of object. And what happens when one fully enters nirvana? Who experiences nirvana? It is the mind that realizes and abides in nirvana. Nirvana itself is an object, and the mind is what knows and rests in it. Keep practicing, and the mind will gradually let go on its own. It lets go because it comes to fully accept the truth. It accepts the truth because it has seen it repeatedly. When the mind accepts the truth of the body, it no longer suffers because of the body, because it no longer clings to it. When the mind accepts the truth of the mind, At the highest level, it even accepts the truth of the knowing mind itself. At that point, there is no more attachment, and suffering comes to an end. Reaching this state means attaining the complete cessation of suffering. Is this difficult? It is difficult from the very beginning because most people don't even want to truly understand suffering. What do we truly desire? We desire to be free from suffering. Lord Buddha told us to understand suffering, yet we want to be free from suffering. Lord Buddha taught us to abandon craving. We constantly crave. What do we crave? We crave happiness. But this craving is completely opposed to Lord Buddha's dharma. To follow the noble path, we must make an effort to abandon unwholesome states that have already arisen, prevent new unwholesome states from arising, cultivate wholesome states that have not yet arisen, strengthen and develop the wholesome states that have already arisen. Do we enjoy this practice? No, we don't. We'd rather seek entertainment than observe whether our mind is filled with defilements or wholesome qualities. We're too lazy to watch the mind. Instead, we'd rather watch TV series or something more exciting. Watching defilements arise and pass away in our own mind. That feels tedious. That's why very few people attain the path and fruition. Only a small fraction of the world even hears the Dharma. Among those who hear it, even fewer actually practice. And among those who do practice, only a rare few develop their mind to the point of fully accepting the natural truth of body and mind. To accept the natural state of things is to accept the Dharma itself. Dharma is simply what is natural, nothing beyond the ordinary. Yet, what craving leads us to do is against nature. Wanting not to age, this is against nature, right? Wanting not to get sick, wanting not to die, this is against nature. Wanting only pleasant experiences, this is against nature. All of our desires go against the natural order. Yet, we nurture craving continuously. Suffering should be understood, but we refuse to acknowledge it. The cause of suffering should be abandoned, but we refuse to let go. Instead, we cultivate craving, allowing it to grow unchecked. The path should be developed. Morality, concentration, and wisdom should be practiced. Nevertheless, we avoid it out of laziness. Yet, despite all this, we still desire nirvana. People desire nirvana, even though they have no true understanding of what nirvana is. They just want it, because they are conditioned to want everything. But nirvana cannot be attained through craving. It is not something we can achieve by wanting it. Nirvana is realized through the cessation of craving, not through the pursuit of it. Why does craving cease? Because one clearly sees suffering. When suffering is understood with absolute clarity, the cause of suffering automatically falls away. There is no need to force it. When suffering is fully known, craving is abandoned naturally. The moment craving ceases, nirvana reveals itself right before our eyes. Nirvana is the state of being free from craving. When craving ends, all struggles and fabrications cease. When all struggles and fabrications cease, suffering ends right there. This is the full and direct teaching. Nothing is withheld. But it is up to each individual to practice. No one can do it for you. You must help yourselves. We do not know how much longer Buddhism will remain. While we have the opportunity, we should practice diligently without delay. That's all for today. Why was today's Dharma so intense? Well, blame those sitting in the front row. You're all lined up perfectly. Let's take a quick break. For some announcements. Otherwise, our sponsors might not be happy. Once the teaching is over, I'm not sure if we have any visitors today. If we do, I'll speak with them first. If not, I'd like to meet with the team organizing Thursday's event for a quick debrief. Let's check on each work stream, ensuring everything is on track. If there are any issues, Let's work together to solve them. Even though we handle different aspects of the work, in the end, everything must come together toward a single goal. Let's coordinate and combine our efforts. That's all for the announcements. End of broadcast. Let me add a little more. On the monastic boundary withdrawal ceremony day, there are no restrictions. You are welcome to attend. However, if you plan to come, be prepared to take care of yourself. There won't be a canteen available for laypersons. The food arrangements are for the monks, as there will be hundreds of them attending. With so many monks, facilities like restrooms may also be insufficient. So, if you just want to observe, feel free to come, but when mealtime comes, you'll need to find your own food. Number 1. You look like you're about to have a heart attack.
Number 1. I practice in a format by chanting and inhaling Bud and exhaling Do. When the mind wanders, I become aware of it. During the day, I try to maintain mindfulness. I have a temperament inclined toward anger. I can observe the mind working on its own. I can see defilements in greater detail and recognize thoughts and desires more quickly. I humbly ask for your guidance on how to continue my practice.
Go practice more. What you're doing is already good. One thing to observe is that your mind hasn't fully settled in its base yet. Is your mind normally like this? Do you realize that your mind moves outward? Can you see it? If you can, then it's not a problem. If the mind wanders outside, just know that it is outside. There's no need to pull it back in. Just be aware of it as it is. Otherwise, your mind may remain outside. While you claim to see all phenomena arising and extinguishing, except for one thing, the mind itself, this remaining self, is never seen to arise or cease like other phenomena. If this attachment still exists, you won't pass the first threshold. You won't attain stream entry. Because you're still holding on to this mind, seeing it as permanent. However, when the mind truly settles in its base, you'll see that even the knowing mind arises and ceases. The knowing mind arises, then ceases, turning into a thinking mind. The thinking mind arises, then ceases, turning back into a knowing mind. If the mind focuses on something, that too arises and ceases. You will clearly see the arising and ceasing of the mind. So if the mind hasn't truly settled in its base, it can still develop insight to some extent. It can observe form, feeling, perception, and mental formations and see that they are not self. But the mind itself will still be perceived as self. Therefore, the mind must truly settle in its base. Right concentration refers to a mind that is firmly established in its base, which is a direct cause for the arising of wisdom. True wisdom, supramundane wisdom, can only arise when the mind is fully a stable observer. This requires practice, but not to the extent of deliberately entering jhana. However, when the noble path arises, the mind will automatically enter jhana by itself. This happens naturally, but first, you must be aware, if your mind is still lingering outside, this realization won't occur. Gradually observe. There's no need to fix anything. Just be aware that the mind hasn't fully settled in its base yet. Simply knowing this is enough. In time, it will settle on its own. You're doing well. Your practice has improved significantly. Number 1. Keep going. See the first 4 aggregates break apart, clearly not being you. But what remains is the mind itself, still perceived as you. Number 2.
Number 2. I practice in a format by sitting meditation and observing the breath for at least 1 hour every day. When my mind becomes restless, I use a mantra. I also cultivate mindfulness in daily life by being aware of bodily movements. I feel that there are less thoughts. I recognize that the body and mind are beyond control and are separate from each other. However, my mind is still not a stable observer. I also feel that in this life there is little happiness and much suffering. I humbly ask for your guidance.
Your understanding is correct. A stable observer doesn't need to be firm at all times. If you try to force it to be stable, it won't be. There's no need to make an effort. Just be aware when the mind is not a stable observer. Be mindful. Let mindfulness frequently recognize physical and mental phenomena. For example, when the mind gets lost in thought, simply be aware. Keep knowing consistently, and over time, the mind will naturally develop strength and turn inward to become a stable observer on its own. Therefore, right concentration does not arise from forcing or directing the mind. It arises from right mindfulness. Mindfulness that continuously recognizes body and mind, form and name, will naturally lead to deeper and more stable concentration. Keep practicing, and right concentration will improve on its own. Here, do you realize that the mind flows into thinking? Do not stop it. When the mind wanders to think, don't forbid it. So, having fewer thoughts is not a measure of whether your practice is good or bad. Sometimes, the mind is simply tired and refuses to think. It might just blank out, becoming empty and still. This happens because the mind wants to rest. Let it rest naturally. Don't force it, or you may end up with a headache. When the mind drifts into thinking, simply be aware of it. If you can't catch it in time, don't worry. Just be aware of the body. Feel your breath. Feel your sensations. As the mind gains strength, it will naturally turn inward toward itself. This process is where the mind unifies into itself. The mind doesn't unify with the breath, the abdomen, the feet, or the hands. It unifies within itself. When the mind unifies within itself, if you're not yet skilled at recognizing thoughts as they arise, don't force it. Developing wisdom doesn't come from thinking. It comes from directly experiencing. Number 2, you're practicing well. Be aware of the body's movements continuously. Over time, your practice will naturally develop, just as I've taught you. Eventually, you will clearly see the mind for what it is. That's good progress. I rejoice in your practice. Number 3.
Number 3. During sitting meditation, I see streams of thoughts arising. When mindfulness recognizes them in time, they cease immediately. If mindfulness is not fast enough, I become drowsy. Sometimes, I see thoughts arising at a very subtle level before they transform into mental images or sounds. If mindfulness catches them in time, they disappear. Other times, I notice that the mind grasps and clings to these subtle formations. In daily life, when strong sensations arise, I try to reflect that they are merely mental fabrications. Is this approach correct?
Yes, you can do that. But during meditation, be aware that delusion may creep in. When practicing meditation, do not incline the mind toward dullness or drowsiness. Maintain mindfulness throughout the entire process. Number 3. When practicing meditation, the mind tends to sink in. You may think that this drowsy state means calmness, but it is not. Delusion has crept in. Have you noticed that when you come out of meditation, the delusion still lingers? It comes out feeling blurry. Do you feel it? Everything else is done correctly, but during meditation, be mindful. Do not incline the mind in that way. Number 3. You're forcing the mind to sink because you think a drowsy mind is good. But a drowsy mind means calmness. This is not correct. It is an unwholesome mind. The mind should be as it is now, simply aware. When it starts feeling tight, do you notice? Oh, how is this good? The moment you label it as good, greed arises unnoticed, and the mind instantly becomes unwholesome. This kind of awareness is correct. When meditating, one must sit with full awareness, not allowing the mind to drift into a dazed state. That is not good. Well done. Number 4.
Number 4. In formal practice, I observe the body breathing in and out. I see the mind getting lost in thought and then ceasing on its own. Sometimes, I recognize that the mind cannot be controlled. However, I still have a tendency to overfocus, causing the mind to feel tense. I realize that this comes from the desire to practice. In daily life, I observe the body's movements as much as mindfulness allows, alternating with observing the mind. I find it easier to see defilements related to anger. When I perceive the 3 characteristics, am I seeing them through wisdom? Or is there still some thinking mixed in?
It's a mix of both. Sometimes there's thinking involved, and sometimes there's direct knowing. That's okay. When wisdom arises through thinking, it brings tranquility. When you think about the 3 characteristics, it develops tranquility. The mind stays detached from sensuality and does not get lost in the world. However, when you truly see the arising and ceasing of phenomena, that is wisdom arising directly, it is genuine insight. These two aspects, thinking and direct seeing, alternate. Both are correct, so don't worry. Do not try to force the mind into stillness. A good mind to practice is a normal mind. A normal mind is naturally bright, clear, and radiant. When the mind is bright and clear, simply natural, that is the knowing mind. When the mind is in this state, any defilement or impurity that arises will be clearly seen. But if the mind is in a deluded state, defilements will arise unnoticed. Therefore, train the mind to be normal. Do not force it into an unnatural state. When the mind is in its natural state, anything foreign that arises will be clearly seen. But if you overfocus and force the mind into stillness, anything foreign that enters will go unnoticed. Step back a little. Number 4. Your mind is pulling inward too deeply and too forcefully. Can you feel that? You're drawing the mind in. Don't do that. Instead, just be aware of it as it is. Relax a little, yes, loosen up. Only then can you begin to develop insight. If you just hold the mind tightly, it won't progress in wisdom. At this stage, you're doing well. Here, you can clearly see how the mind operates. But if you go deeper than this, it won't be good anymore. Number 5. For someone like you, number 4, when meditation becomes too deep, the mind stops and no longer develops wisdom. You need to step back slightly, like I just guided you. Step back a little and insight will begin to unfold. Now you understand. Good. Number 5.
Number 5. I practice in a format through sitting and walking meditation. I practice mindfulness by being aware in daily life. May I have the opportunity to sit in meditation to show you so that you can observe and provide guidance on how to continue my practice?
Go ahead, sit. Number 6.
Number 6. I practice in a format by trying to maintain mindfulness in daily life, observing emotions and being aware of the body as they truly are. However, I still tend to overfocus, leading to a still and fixed concentration that does not develop insight. I humbly ask for your guidance.
Keep practicing. There's no need to rush into insight just yet. If you try to force insight now, the mind will become restless very quickly. Practice concentration so that the mind gains enough strength. What you are doing is correct. Keep going. Don't worry that insight isn't arising yet. When the time is right, it will naturally develop. If you rush it now, the mind will become scattered. At the same time, don't force the mind to be still. Can you see that right now your mind is not in a natural state? Think of how the mind normally feels before you started practicing. Before you learned about meditation, what was your natural, untrained mind like? Become aware of that. Right now, you're subtly inclining the mind toward a dreamy state. Don't do that. Some people enter meditation and intentionally make themselves drowsy, like an addict seeking intoxication. This is not good. Instead, keep being aware. Observe the body breathing. The mind be the observer. See the body breathing. The mind simply watches. Keep practicing, and over time, the mind will gain strength. Number 7.
Number 7. I practice by chanting, sitting meditation, and alternating between observing the mind and the body. I see phenomena and recognize my own defilements, particularly my habitual tendency to judge and blame others. I also see desire and perceive that this world is filled with suffering. During meditation, I sometimes fall asleep but remain somewhat aware. I know that I am asleep because I experience drowsiness. Is my practice correct?
Your practice is good. Keep going. Right now, your mind hasn't settled in its base. Can you see that? Your mind strays outside. It lingers here at me. Your body is at home, but your mind is here at the monastery. Can you feel that? Simply be aware. When the mind flows outward, just be aware. Keep knowing, playfully and lightly. A common weakness among practitioners is insufficient concentration. Many people who join Zoom today have the same issue. Their concentration is not strong enough. You need to practice more and train it correctly. Concentration must be accompanied by mindfulness. Don't train in a way that leads to drowsiness or a trance-like state. Instead, train to be fully aware. Let the mind be aware. Continue your meditation practice. If the mind becomes calm, fine. If it doesn't, that's fine too. Just keep practicing. Maintain mindfulness. Don't incline the mind toward a dull or overly still state. If you practice correctly, over time, the mind will naturally unify and become powerful. As a layperson, your mind is engaged in work and daily activities all day, which makes it fragmented and unstable. You need discipline and consistency in your practice to sustain your progress. Like number 4, you were truly dedicated. You were diligent in your practice. Keep going, but don't make the mind to still. Number 4, you have a tendency to fixate on keeping the mind still. Number 8.
Number 8. I chant regularly and meditate in the morning and evening for about 45 minutes each session. I observe the breath along with the mantra Buddho, allowing the mind to be the observer. I see the breath coming in and out. I see the body sitting. I see thoughts arising. When mindfulness recognizes the thoughts, they disappear. When the mind becomes calm, I feel light. However, I feel that I am not making progress. I don't know what I might be doing wrong. Could you please advise?
You're not doing anything wrong. Just keep practicing. There's nothing incorrect. However, after coming out of meditation, when your eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind come into contact with sense objects, notice how your mind changes in response. Be aware. This is where insight develops more fluidly. What you're doing is correct. Just keep going. Number 7. Do you notice that your mind has wandered? Be aware of it in time. Otherwise, the mind will keep wandering away. Only one left. Number 5. Try pulling your mind outward. Let it come out here to the present moment first, so we can talk. Your meditation practice is not wrong. You can do it. When you come out of meditation, the mind immediately develops wisdom. Right now, your mind is in a good state. The way you enter meditation is sometimes right, sometimes not. Yet, it doesn't matter. Just keep practicing as you gain strength from it. Did you notice when you went inward just now? The mind was a bit unstable, a little shaky. That's okay. Just keep practicing. But when you come out of meditation, immediately recognize reality and perceive the 3 characteristics in whatever arises. Your mind has strength right now, which is good. That's all for today. Are there any monk visitors here? Please go check. You may return home.